just as we were due to go back, and I think if I remember rightly, it was the 12th of April 2021.
It was, yeah.
We were due to open up again, and hope was, it was really exciting, as an industry, being in the close contact nature of our work, it was so exciting. But at the same time, I've been thrown a slight curveball because my son was last minute getting married in the States, and I flew to Mexico because we couldn't. Long story, which I won't go into too fully, because otherwise we'll probably be here just focusing on that bit. But we had to fly into Mexico because we couldn't fly directly into the States.
I can remember all this.
And I got really poorly when I was in Mexico, and basically, I went into hospital in Mexico, told that the likelihood is you've got ovarian cancer. And that just blew my mind, as you can imagine. And I had to fly home. I missed my son's wedding. I couldn't make it. It still makes me emotional even now when I talk about it. And I arrived back, and of course, the universe had definitely thrown me a curveball on starting back on the April the 12th, because then I had to leave my business in the hands of my team while I focused on my health.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously, did you get seen fairly quickly?
Well, I had to be, because I was so poorly, and that was the point. So actually, when I got back to the UK, I got taken into A&E. So I went through the A&E route because I was full of ascitic fluid, which was making me really sick. I could barely function. I was having migraines, and basically, so into A&E, into a ward, having a stomach drain. Sent home a few days later, went back in a few days after that because a tumour had probably burst, which it did by the time they got me on the table. Emergency operation, removed the tumours, and got confirmed at that point that it was definitely ovarian cancer. They didn't know until they got me on the table and did all the biopsies at the same time.
Because I can remember at that time, I can remember when you were over in Mexico, and obviously for me and for everyone in Beauty Directors Club, it just seemed so sudden. But to you, did it feel like that? Or had you felt unwell before? Or was it...
No, it was very sudden. It was extremely sudden. And actually, if this would give me just a slight opportunity, I think, if you're okay with this, for me to talk about the symptoms of ovarian cancer, because it is known as a silent killer. Mm-hmm. And actually, if you ask a lot of women, what are the symptoms of ovarian cancer? Women go, you know what, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'd had a COVID vaccination literally about 3 days before I flew out. Whether that's a coincidence and that highlighted my immune system had too much to deal with and it brought on the symptoms very quickly, whether it was the flight, whether it was other things, who knows.
Yeah.
But basically, by the time I got to Mexico, I was starting to feel a little bit bloated in the first few days, but that was it. I was just kept on saying to my daughter, I feel a bit bloated. And she was like, you're all right, Mum, I'm not exactly an overweight person. I said, it's not about weight. It's about, I feel a bit bloated. I just feel a bit uncomfortable. One of the other key symptoms is the fact that you can actually get full very quickly. So you start to eat and then you're just full. But that was a little bit something that happened with me anyway. I was never like a big eater. If I was full, I stopped eating, and I didn't recognise it as being significant. And I didn't, again, know the symptoms that I was looking for. But actually, a few days in, I started waking up in the night with really bad kidney pain that I hadn't had previously. I was bloating more and more. I ignored it to begin with because I thought maybe I just drunk too many cocktails, and as you do, when you're in Mexico, you're drinking the margaritas and stuff. And I just thought I'd lay off some alcohol, I'll rehydrate, see how I get on. And then within a couple of nights later, it was really bad again, and I started vomiting. And then I got this migraine. I couldn't move from bed. I just felt awful. And I actually remember ringing my son, who was in a different room, going, I don't know what to do. Suddenly your children become your parents. I don't know what to do. I can't move from bed. And he said, you're just going to have to call the hotel doctor. But everyone was so nervous because of COVID, you see. It was that thing, of like COVID. Do you call the hotel doctor? Do you get them to come into your room? So, of course, I did call the hotel doctor. She came in, she prodded me a little bit and said, yeah, you've got to go to hospital. So those are the main symptoms for me. But people actually often get ovarian cancer muddled up with IBS because it can cause constipation and things like that as well. Yeah. So people can get quite often dismissed. And often it can be in the later stages that it can be diagnosed because the symptoms can be missed for something else.
So with ovarian cancer, though, does it come on quite suddenly like yours, or
No.
can it just be these symptoms going on gradually? And in some ways, the fact that you had that COVID jab, the fact that you had flown and things, it, in some ways that might be a blessing in some way, because of bringing it on faster, because otherwise it could possibly have just gone on and you think, oh, I've got a bit of a bug or whatever kind of thing. But for it to all happen suddenly.
Yeah, no, I'm very, very grateful, actually. I'm grateful for everything every day, but I'm grateful very much for that, in terms of it coming on quite suddenly, because for me at that stage, it was contained to the ovaries. I had symptoms of quite advanced ovarian cancer, but actually it was contained to the ovaries. I did go on to have chemo, which was meant to be belts and braces. But as you know, the story does continue after that. So, that was meant to be belts and braces just to mop everything up because the tumour had burst. But at that point, it was contained to my ovaries. But I did have those symptoms of very advanced ovarian cancer that I actually didn't have.